All right. We are live. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are, AFWO family. And you know what? What's today? Today is Friday, okay? Actually, Thursday, but it's our Friday, okay? And I know you guys like, okay, it's not really Friday, but look, if you are off tomorrow for this 4-day weekend, for this Memorial Day weekend, then it is a 4-day. And if you are not really, I hope you enjoy. It gives you some downtime for yourself as you are out there working hard for that money, y'all. So, anywho, as always, you can reach out to us at the bottom of the screen. You see Air Force Women Outreach at gmail.com, and that is how you can reach us. If you have any situations that you want us to bring to the page, and also if you want to be anonymous, as usual, the 39.7K membership rallies around. We give out resources, we do answers, we just leave for information to talk. But either way, we are here for all of you. And then, of course, you can go to the administrator and then go to the top of the page, go to membership, and you can see all the administrators and moderators, including myself. My name is Dre, in case I didn't identify myself. But anywho, y'all not here to see me. Okay, I know that. So anyway, we got a special guest today. And her post that went on this page was absolutely, it just skyrocketed. And I'm being honest with y'all, I had never met her or heard of her until this point, and I was like, okay, I gotta talk to her. And then as soon as I put her on the page and said I'm bringing her on, all the people was like, yeah, we want her. So I was like, okay, cool, positive feedback. But anywho, let's bring her on. Welcome, Mary, to the show, to Apple Speaks. How are you doing, Mary?
Hello, thank you so much. Really excited to be here.
Hey, you know what? We are excited to have you, and I'm really glad that you kind of just allowed me to get into the messenger and conversate and talk about different things. And then I just realized we were kind of on the same sheet of music when it comes to this mental health stuff. So the overall intent of Apple Speaks is to bring the human side, and of course, really identify issues that are important to us. And so I'm glad you can bring on here to bring your perspective. So the first thing I want to ask is, can you tell our viewers about yourself?
Yes, so thank you. I Mary Polanco. I have been in the Air Force for a little over 22 years. I started off as security forces and cross-trained into medical, and did a couple other special duties throughout my career, PME, and more recently a fellowship, enlisted legislative fellowship. I am married. We have two children. Our daughter will be 12 soon. Our son is 8. My husband's a tennis instructor, so he's a civilian, always has been. And we live in Maryland, and we just purchased a home, our first home. So there's lots and lots of work to do with that. So I'm very busy. And in my spare time, I like to color things with ink. So you can see my little hobby behind me. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me.
Yes. We are loving the creativeness in the back. A little interior decoration. Appreciate you sharing that with us. And of course, shout out to our defenders. We love our defenders, and to our medical folks, to families, to all that good stuff. So thank you for sharing that with us. So let's get to our first question. Okay, look. So I'll preface this because resilience is it's that kind of buzzword, right? It's that buzzword, and I only speak from my own experience to where when I first heard of resilience, I was like, what is that? What are we talking about here? And then okay, we got to do training. Oh, another training. All right, let's bring the training on. And then the definition was kind of just one of those things where basically be able to handle situations that come at you and be able to bounce back from the situation. Is kind of the way I understand it. But I don't know about you, but I've kind of it kind of has, looking further into it. The idea of it's just something that is not. I don't know what it's lacking. But I just don't feel like I feel like it may create the image that you should be able to handle every situation that comes at you, no matter what, and be able to just bounce up versus have a genuine maybe difficulties, disappointments, or things like that. And so I wanted to know
Yeah.
your perspective. What do you think? Is there anything missing from this resilient stuff? And what do you think we can get better at with it?
Yes, there is. You're spot on when you talk about it potentially becoming a buzzword for a lot of people. I think things lose their meaning when when they're not backed up with action. And so we could talk about the concept of resiliency all day long, but until we actually start supporting what that actually means as a community, then it's going to lose its luster. And so one of the things I think that's missing from resiliency is the idea. There's sort of a myth surrounding it that it's an individual responsibility, and I'm making that up. That's my own perception of the myth. But I think that when you understand how people become resilient, then you understand it is not a solo sport. You understand that is largely ingrained in connection, in community, in feeling a sense of belonging. All of those things you can't do by yourself. There are certain things that are personal accountability to help you through, like making sure you're getting enough sleep and you're eating properly and you're exercising. You're telling people when you're not having a great day. Like, those things are your personal responsibility. But if you don't have the community to build a safe environment for you to do that, if you have an ops tempo that doesn't allow you the time and space to have self-care, then how are we blaming folks for not being resilient? And so I think that is the piece that's missing, is that truly we need to change the narrative from, hey, Airman, I need you to find balance. It's really important that you find balance in your career. To change it to, rest assured, I'm going to create the balance that you need so that you can be a whole airman. And if I don't, I need you to hold me accountable. So that is the shift in narrative that I think needs to happen for everybody, because I have been telling airmen and myself, create balance. Because you can't be too far on one side. But I don't know, if we don't have the environment to feel like I can create that balance, I'm never going to. So I think that's
Speaking on that, and that also ties into this work-life balance thing that kind of just is it varies with a person's definition. Some people say you can have it, some people say you can't, some people say it doesn't exist. What do you think?
I think that it does exist, but like anything, I think if you want all the things all the time at the same time, something's going to give. So I think the balance has to be, you have to take control and lead yourself first, and you have to figure out, what does my year look like? What are the things that I need to work on to grow as a human being, as a person, as a mother, as an airman? What are those things? And then work your year, your month, whatever that is, through those goals. But if you wing everything all the time, you're going to feel out of balance, because maybe you didn't plan for X to happen and now you have to do Y, or whatever the case is. I mean, it's a complex answer, a complex question, but I do think it's possible. And I look at my own experience, and I'll talk a little bit more about this as we go. But I I'm still I'm a high performer. I show up, I work hard, I do all those things. I was involved in everything. I took on every responsibility, every opportunity so I can grow. I was going 1,000 miles a minute. And my husband and I are still very close. My kids and I are still very close. I have maintained a wonderful life balance at home. But what gave was me. I gave. And I didn't realize that I was part of that equation. That, I started developing anxiety, and I was gaining weight. I was tired all the time, depressed. And I thought, well, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. Why do I feel this way? People say, I want to retire and have my husband still there. Well, he's definitely still there because we got a great relationship. So what am I doing wrong? And so that's something I definitely want to share with as many people as possible, because it hit me out of the blue. I wasn't expecting it. I thought I was balancing everything. So yeah.
And I imagine that I imagine that it is sort of you normalize it within yourself, right? It becomes a habit, it It becomes something you do all the time, and so therefore it's hard for you to see the forest from the trees.
Yes.
You know, you're just like, I'm producing, I'm getting results. You know, what's the issue? And then your body, meanwhile, is like, hey, Mary, hey, you know what I'm saying? We got to slow down, we got to chill, we got to just like kind of relax and scale it back a little bit. And I know for myself, I'm a like productive individual. So to not have something like to not have something that occupies my time feels wrong. You know what I'm saying? It feels like I should always be doing something. So hey, if something just fell off my plate, I need to put something right back on it to replace it. And then, you know, and then my body's like, hey, we're tired, we're exhausted. I have anxiety myself, so I can definitely relate to that. So you know, work-life balance varies from person to person, in my mind, and to just, you know, having something is going to be sacrificed in the midst of trying to achieve this. And the question we probably need to ask ourselves is, what are we willing to sacrifice in order to achieve that?
Yes.
Right.
I remember making a very pointed sacrifice one year because I had just had my daughter. And I knew what it was going to take for me to be selected to Master Sergeant at the time. And I knew what it was going to take for me to recover from a C-section. And so I sacrificed the opportunity to try for Master that year. And I focused on my physical fitness because I figured, well, I can make the stripe, but if I fail my PT test, it's not going to matter. So there's certain things that in my decision making, I've had to choose, you know, depending on the time.
And so, how did you feel? You know, I think the other thing that we miss about this also is we can make a conscious decision to make a sacrifice or pick something, but then ultimately later on possibly have the regrets or have the you know, sort of the being triggered by it. And man, I shouldn't have done it. Yeah. Maybe I shouldn't have. You know, I focus on my physical fitness, but now I'm not a master sergeant. Or now, like, maybe I lost my chances or something like that. So do you struggle with that? Do you struggle with like, you know, sort of that kind of having the blinders on at the time, and then when the blinders come off, you're just kind of like, well, I shouldn't focus on that.
I can't say that I've never felt that way, but I think that in particular, some of those big decisions that I've had to, because I've never not opened a book for promotion. Like that never happened. I was conditioned. So when that happened, I think when you have, like, for me, when I had my daughter, things changed. I thought, you know, and plus, let me add in, I had a very strong support system in my mother. At the time, she had come to stay with us, and she told me, she's like, Mary, the baby feels everything. The baby feels your stress, feels your joy, feels all that. Is, you know, what are you doing to yourself? And so I think that was my first act of giving myself grace, of just like, I think this is going to be okay. Regardless, this is going to be okay because I'm choosing the right thing. Otherwise, I would have just been more of a hot mess.
Yeah, no, I mean, that is an interesting point, because then you ultimately have a body that's directly connected to you, to where like your reaction is their reaction, your stress is their stress. And so, you know, now you're, and while that may be like admirable, at the same time, like what keeps us from doing that same thing for ourselves, like taking that pause, or at least in your mind, you know what I mean, to say, you know what, I have myself to think about. Like, I have my own goals, my own perspectives to think about. Like, do you find yourself challenged to where you're so much of a giver that you don't really see yourself, you kind of like put yourself last?
Yeah, I think that I'm still working through a lot of emotions of the past few years. But I didn't see it. I didn't see that was an issue. And that's why I'm really vocal about it now, because I think that we are just we're told that if you want X, you need to do Y, and there's no room or time for real reflection. There's no we call it white space, where your calendar is empty and you can use that time to just think and reflect on things. And so I didn't know that was missing. I didn't know it was a thing. And, you know, honestly, I figured it out when I got my fellowship. I was selected for the fellowship, and I went from being a superintendent where you barely have time to take a lunch break, to worry about yourself, get yourself dressed in the morning, get on the train, and go be a student of the environment for a year. And I was like, it was the most uncomfortable transition for me, because I felt like during those first few months, I felt like I was failing because I didn't know what to do. I was not doing anything, when I was supposed to be absorbing and learning, and which I did. But that was the first time I realized, oh my goodness, there's so much reflection and there's so much creativity in your reflection. And if you don't do that, you lose so much of an opportunity to use these things you're learning. So the answer to your question of why we don't do it, for me, I can speak for everybody. I can speak for me, and I could say, I think part of me was just conditioned otherwise. I was conditioned the moment I became a leader as a staff sergeant. I was conditioned to care for others, to put others' needs first. My kids, my airmen, my boss, my peers, my wingman.
Yeah.
And I feel guilty if I don't do that. There's guilt, and that has shifted for me.
Sure. And that's awesome, because I think that, like you said, it's sort of a built-in, like you said, it's a conditioned thought process. I mean, the common phrase we hear, take care of your people. Common phrase, repeat over and over. Hey, you know what? Be a leader, be a mentor, take care of your people. Okay, got it, sir. I will take care of my people. I will do everything possible to take care of them. But just like they say, put the mask on first, then put the other person on. The same thing is, can it be take care of yourself and take care of your people?
Yes. It needs to be. It needs to be.
Yeah. So let's talk about some mental health. Okay. So I've told you about the background of this page, and Air Force Women Outreach is, a mental health resource that we want people to utilize. But mental health also has that stigma, societal, in my opinion, to where, now we're a little bit outward. Like now the conversation is a little bit more normalized, but there's still some conditions where you're not going to mention. Okay. PTSD is something that is familiar to a lot of folks, but we still got some work to do. So, have you had any experiences, positive or negative, that you want to share with us about mental health?
Yeah, I do. I actually had a revelation during my experience. I was so it got to the point where I was avoiding what was happening to me. And I basically was just like, oh, all my other coping mechanisms that have worked for 20 years are going to work and I'll be fine and whatever. But it just wasn't working. Nothing was working. And I was feeling chest pressure constantly. You understand anxiety, and it's different for everybody. But for me, it was, I'm a people person, and I couldn't people for more than an hour. Yep. And after that, I was exhausted for a day. And so all these things were happening to me. And so finally, after probably a year of physical manifestation symptoms, I was like, okay, I think I need to make this call. And this is the first time in my career that I've made the call to mental health. And
where were you at? Like, what year would you say you were in, if you don't mind sharing?
When I called?
Yes.
Oh, it was 2020.
Okay. So fairly recent.
Yep, a little over a year ago.
Okay.
So I made the call, but let me back up. Before I decided to make the call, this is very important because this is where my revelation happened. I was really, really anxious about it. I just felt like there was a part of me that felt, I know my logical side is saying that this does not make you weak. You can do this. But then there was a part of me that was saying, but you've done so well 20 years. Like, why would you need it now?
Yeah.
And so then I was like, okay, well, let me see. So we had a coworker of mine who was going through some really hard times who had called and was getting seen. And my boss was the most supportive person. He was like, if you need to take a knee, not if, you do it, you get what you need. Like, couldn't ask for a better support system. Yeah. And I, at the time, I'm a senior NCO. And so if I still had a hard time picking up the phone, what chance does an airman have who feels the weight of the world in a different way, who doesn't feel they have the support system, who doesn't know that it's going to be okay. Like what I thought, boy, if I can't do this, how do we expect others to do it? Not that I'm better. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying I've gotten the training now for, at this point, 20 years.
Right.
So, and I still am having a hard time. Mm-hmm. So, I think when you're not in it, when you're kind of the bystander or the wingman and you're watching this, it really makes sense for people to just go get the help they need. But when you're in it, there's so many more facets to that situation.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So,
right. And so,
yeah, that's something.
So did it take seeing the support you would get to make that phone call? Is what you're saying? Like seeing how supportive other people could be.
Is that what made me take the call?
Yeah.
Made me do the call. I think if I didn't have the support, I think I would have just felt worse about myself.
Sure.
But I would have probably done it anyway, only because I'm a very reflective person on myself.
Right.
And I knew that there was a severe problem when I'm usually very positive and bubbly and happy-go-lucky. But I knew there was a severe problem when, my husband's a great support system, and I can always bounce anything off him. He is just like the greatest listener.
Right.
And so I would do that every single day. We would chat about anything. Well, one day I came up and I sat on the couch and I just kind of looked straight ahead. And he was like, "So how's your day?" And I couldn't muster up energy to say one sentence. Mm. And I was like, I have nothing left. Like, I just am going to sit here. Like, my kids weren't getting, everything they did or needed bothered me.
Right.
And I knew that's not how I wanted to live my life. So that was the major reason for calling.
Good for you. So no hesitation once you did that. And then when you made that call, when you went to make your appointment and all that stuff like that, any anxiety with that? Any kind of, yeah. I know the answer is yes, but I'm just asking you.
Yeah.
Because I just remember my own experience to where it was like, it took people to convince me. Okay. It took people to convince me. And I'm talking about serious convincing. And then, quote unquote, walking through like it's a walk of shame type of thing and signing in. And, they're kind of looking at you. Were you here to get somebody else? No, I'm here for me. So, so now that you've done it, where are you now? Like, where are you with it? Are you kind of like, hey, you know what? I'm just riding this wave, or where are you with it?
Well, I think one thing that I committed, as hard as it was, I committed to do was, once I identified the problem and I reached out for help, I committed to being vocal about it. I committed to not hiding it. I told very close friends of mine who have seen me at my best in my career. I've reached out to mentors. I wanted to be very open that I wasn't in a place to take on anything additional. I wasn't in a place to work past a certain point. Like, I was very open about it, because the thing is, I can't sit here as a senior leader and say, we need to break stigma, and then I'm hiding behind a door, So I take senior leader credibility very seriously. And so that was important to me. And so, but that first, you ever feel kind of down, and then someone says, "Are you okay?" Mm-hmm. And you're like,
I've done
that was my first hour with the psychologist. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was the first time that I actually was exploring with a stranger, and it was hard. I think I was wiped out for a day, but it was so necessary, because everyone else knows me and loves me and says, "You're going to get through this. You're going to be okay. You're strong. You're this, you're that." And I just wanted to crumble,
Yep.
But yeah, so where am I at now? I'm a work in progress.
Good. Great response. Because to me, we're not expecting perfection with these things. We should. And so it's like, hey, I'm a work in progress, because I know that there's some things that I need to work on. It's not going to take a day to do, a week, a month, a year. It's whatever timeline
Yep.
I need to, figure out whatever it is that's going on with me.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, I am proud of you, ma'am. Just saying, because because it takes courage, and I say that as somebody from experience to make that phone call and to actually show face and be as vulnerable with somebody about what you're dealing with. So thank you for sharing that with us. So you're retiring
I am. Yes.
and you're retiring. And so, is there anything in your mind that you wish you had done more or not done? Any regrets or any of that? Or do you feel like you're leaving on the right, on a good, whatever note it is that you want to leave?
Um, no regret. Um,
Okay.
no, I'm thinking about it. I don't really the word regret doesn't really resonate with me, only because I very much think everything happens to put you in a place to ready you for the next thing. And so, the things that I seemingly might regret early on in my career were things that I made up for it when I was ready to in my later career. And so, things that I let slide when I was a young airman because it was that, or, it was be ostracized or join the crowd.
Mhm.
I never did when I was a NCO, so
Okay. Yep.
because I knew that was wrong. And so I think I tried to make right in my junior years of the immaturity and the things you just don't know. Um, but I think that I always thought I wanted to end my career. Um, this is hard. I always thought I wanted to end my career with airmen physically by my side, but that didn't happen for me. I'm in a staff position. And so I think what I'm proud of what I'm doing, the work I'm doing is instead of retiring with them, I'm retiring in the work I do for them.
Okay.
So I think that's been a hard shift for me, because I think one of the reasons I was able to keep going so well prior to leaving operations was the feeling that I was doing something good for somebody
Mhm.
physically. Like I could see it on their face.
Yep. 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 Yep.
And I think when I walked away from that, a lot of good happened from that reflection, but also I missed that. And so that's why, when you even invited me, I was like, oh my God, yes, a person to talk to. but yeah, I think I would have liked to have done that. However, I've made amends with where I'm at in my life and what I did contribute.
Yeah, and you know what? And that's the important thing. Like, and the reason I asked this question is just, just a matter of reflection and knowing that what's on the other side of this, and sometimes it comes faster than we can keep up, and I tell my airmen this all the time. I'm like, what? Like you will wake up and you're in BMT, you will go to sleep and wake up, you'll be a staff sergeant, and then in the blink of an eye, you'll be a master sergeant. And then, that following 30 seconds later, it'll feel like you're retiring and getting your DD 214 and saying, have a nice life type thing. So it just comes very fast. But even at a staff position, I mean, there's more of the policy and the administrative stuff versus the tangible faces of people and the influence that you can have.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get it. I get it. So let's talk about disappointment. Okay.
Okay.
So this has been common. This has kind of came up a lot of questions for me, just because these are a lot of the conversation I'm having lately, and that's with the pressure we have on ourselves to succeed. And honestly, like I think it goes back to the conditioning piece, to where we need to accomplish so much to get to that next step that we're willing to put it at our own expense, sometimes of ourselves, sometimes of our family. But then when you don't achieve that success, then it's almost like it could break you. You know what I mean? And so I want to kind of help some of our membership, just figure out, and even myself included, what is the best way to deal with that stuff? Because you are literally disappointment. Like is some like we are on this stage, kind of if you think about it, where in our organizations, people see the things that happen to us, the emotions we go through, whether we, the way we walk into work, our body language, all those things. And so, I'll talk about promotions because that's the most recent thing. But it's just, one of those things where we have to face the music, and it's almost like we have to do it while everybody's watching.
Yeah.
So, so how have you dealt with disappointment in your life, like in your career, and granted, there is no right answer. I'm just curious of the different ways that you've learned how to deal with that stuff.
Yeah. Well, if I just start with talking about promotion, I've not been promoted more than I have. So like, I've missed it more than I've had the good day. So I know that feeling all too well. I think the first thing, and this is not just promotion, but disappointment in myself in general, starts with regret. Funny you asked that, but it's like that initial sting of like, I should have, would have, could have done. I should have done this more, should have done that more. And then as I talk myself through it, it's more of reflection. What didn't I do so I don't do it again? What did I do so I don't do it again? So like, what are those things that I need to kind of get me to where I want to be, where my goal is? And then acceptance that it really is for a reason, that there's just sort of, my life has just sort of had this divine movement of, things that have happened. And even when I'm going through it, I'm like, this is for a reason. I know it. Myself this time, but I know it. So yeah, so I think acceptance, but there's an opportunity in everything. And I tell you what, the reason that I was able to come out of that, out of the dark, really, is because I did a huge mind shift, and I started forcefully thinking positive. I started reading positive affirmations every day. I started writing down a vision, writing down goals, designing what I wanted my life to look like, and that really did help me kind of get through that. So that's how I view those disappointing times. But no one's harder on ourselves than us. Even if you play coy or you play like you don't care, that's a defense mechanism, and that's okay. I get it. But we all want to do well. We do. We all want to show up. We all want to be, looked at as a contributing member. Like that's what we wouldn't have joined if we didn't. And so we're all our own worst critic. So I think being kind to the one person that you can rely on the most in this world is the most important thing.
True story. And you know what? And there's no one way to do it, but it feels like a cycle of grief, the way you described it. And so it's literally, it's just literally just, here's the issue. I'm sad about it. I feel like crap. And then I'm kind of reflective about it. Like I go through my stages of anger and understanding like it is okay. It is okay to process something like that. But then what happens after? We accept it and then we move on. Or then we kind of, we find other means to translate that negative energy into something positive. So I know that's what I do for me. Now, granted, I'm not. Granted, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think too, it's hard not, and this isn't about me or a leader in this position, but I'm sharing that it is a difficult place to sit in when you're calling that person who's been waiting to hear. And you're the one on the phone that has to give them the bad news. And then, the one thing I would recommend for any of us out there that has to do that is let the person feel the feelings. Like it's okay if they cry, if they say promotion's BS anyway, or if they let them feel the feelings, because there's nothing you're going to say that's going to make them feel like, yeah, you're right. It's okay.
Yep, exactly. They're human. They're human. And so human reactions, right? Like we understand, like just like with good news, we know, it's easier for us to get beyond that because it's good news and we know it's going to make that person feel good. But when we know we're going to say something that's going to make somebody feel like crap, then, then that's kind of the hesitation. That's kind of the like non-confrontational. Like we don't want any parts of that because we kind of feel like we're a personal part of that person's
Mhm.
pain, if you will. So,
Mhm.
there's definitely room to grow in that.
Mhm.
Okay, awesome. So, side note, so the people watching, if you got any questions for Mary, okay, questions for me or her, by all means, please post it in the comments. If you have any comments, you want to say shout outs, you want to say, hey, how you doing? Please do it in the comments, and I will read it to her out loud on live. Obviously, keep it clean. Y'all know how this goes. So anyhow, moving on. So going on to the next thing. So I want to talk about ultimately the post that brought me, that got my attention. And so, just for people that aren't familiar, Mary posted just a picture of herself, as like, hey, this is like the last day I'm wearing a uniform type thing, and kind of just talking about the core values and how we need to look at how it's redefined, how what the meaning is behind it. And it was powerful just because I'll speak for myself because I'm like, yeah, like we it tends to possibly create some pressure on ourselves. Say, hey, these are the three core values, and if we don't meet these to perfection, then we're kind of it gives you that sense that you're not a good human being or a good airman or good whatever just because of that. And so she really was vulnerable. She was very reflective and transparent with us. And so, what drew you to that point? What made you say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna tell everybody, or not everybody, but I'm gonna tell this group, this is what I'm gonna like today. What made you do that?
Um, well, this is a okay. I decided that I had done a lot of reflecting over the last year in therapy and doing the work myself. And this is one of those things that kind of came at me, which was the potential mixed messaging that we have. And it just made me think about all the times I would talk to airmen, and I was an instructor at one point in my career, and we would talk about the core values, and I always had to spend so much time on service before self, always. And I did because it was misinterpreted, and I felt that I wasn't doing the Air Force service if I didn't share the intent of that message, which you saw. If you saw the thread, so many people have such good ways of explaining it. One was it's service before self, not service in spite of self.
Right.
There's a lot of good explanation. But should we have something that takes another sub bullet or three to explain what it means?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if we had no core values written down and we looked at the culture would not say self before service. It would say make sure you're looking out for your people, your wingman, do the mission, da 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 da. Right. So it's this very confusing thing, and because I had realized that I was part of that, of course, of facilitating that culture, I wanted to share that maybe we need to rethink it. And I wanted to hear other people's thoughts on it. I wanted to hear, was I way off the mark? Were my feelings someone else's feelings? And I was really surprised how many people agreed with me. I think I knew there was going to be a few, but I didn't expect that sort of dialogue. So it was awesome because I think there's something to be said for that topic. You know, but I have to tell you, I it's not that I've been hiding for a year and not sharing. I've been very active, as much as I can. I don't post as the original poster that much,
Sure.
but I was ready, and I was ready to share what my truth was, and I was ready to hear other perspectives.
Interesting. And I think that yeah, I mean it brought people out the woodwork, and I love seeing that type of stuff. But when it's on and especially on a topic such as this, is because we want to help others. We want to help each other gain understanding and learn things and have a perspective about something that ultimately shapes a lot of us, like shapes the way we teach, the way we lead, the way we work. And it can tend to have the added pressure, like serves before self, but but we want to, try to, we're supposed to put ourselves first because number one, nobody does the work for us. Like we have to do the work for ourselves. But then on the other hand, it's about other people. So, it is something that potentially needs to be looked at as far as just redefining that and making it a little bit more clear, just because of how it can be interpreted. You can definitely internalize it to the point where it's like, does that mean, and especially think about how it's repeated, how it's repeated to this person to the next, like a telephone game, to where it's like, okay, well, sorry, such and such says serves for herself, so you shouldn't take that leave, or you shouldn't be going to lunch for an hour, or X, Y, and Z. Like it can be sometimes turned into a negative thing instead of a positive thing. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate you bringing that discussion to our page and being vulnerable, the way that you have. Okay, so let's see. Do you have any quotes that inspire you that you want to share with us?
Yes. In fact, one of the greatest gifts I've ever received leaving a base, I'm not one for like, I appreciate everything, but I'm more for the meaningful, right? So one of my squadrons had gotten a journal book, and they each contributed their favorite inspirational quote to it. Oh, and nice. It was just the greatest gift ever. But okay, so I think my first one that I try to live my life by, my mantra, if you will, is that no candle ever lost a flame by lighting another candle. I think that to me is it goes to prove that we are in this together, and my shining, your shining is not going to dull my shine. And if we can get past that competitive nature and realize that your strengths are going to make me better and my strengths are going to make you better, I think we would be unstoppable. So that's one of my favorite. Let's see. Oh, I like this one. I had a plaque of this in my office. It said, everything you want is on the other side of fear. That's a very motivational one for me, because I think there's fear in all of us for all the things. So that one. And then a mentor of mine had told me, your actions are so loud, I can barely hear what you're saying. And that to me was, and that could be good or bad. I mean, it really could be. So that, and then I think the last one, I got a lot of quotes, but I think the last one that I love is, how does it go? I'm back.
Okay. I was like, oh my God, no.
What did I leave off of? Because I was
you didn't even start the quote. So
didn't start it. Oh, so it wasn't the flow wasn't ruined. Okay. Okay. It was the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Okay. And that's from Gandhi. And that is just facts right there, Gandhi.
All right, just facts. Man, I love it.
Yes.
Okay, great. So what about your, I asked this to all of my guests because we unfortunately have the suicide just about every day, all the time. And, sometimes it's about not having purpose. So I like my guests there, what inspires them to live. So what is your reason? What is your inspiration to live every day?
I've never been asked that question before. That is, it's a really good question. I'm inspired to live because I find true joy in doing something positive for someone else. I think when little old me from a small town in Pennsylvania is able to make somebody's day better, you really can't ask for much more than that. And I think that to me is, and that's my kids, that's my husband, that's my friends, that's strangers. It's just that inspires me, that motivates me, that makes me happy. Even in my worst moments, I still brought kindness to others, because that's important to me. I want to really focus on, there was a time when my kids were littler where I realized that I wasn't being the best mentor to them. But ask most airmen, they'd probably say I gave them lots of time. And I think neglecting my most important proteges was devastating realization to me. And so I think I'm inspired to pass on what I've learned so that they don't have to make the same choices or mistakes that I made, and they can actually build upon that and live an even greater life. So my just loving people.
All right now. All right now. Inspiration to live is loving people, spreading that good energy, spreading that positive influence, and just genuinely being a good human being. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yes.
So let's talk audiobooks recommendations. Do you have any podcasts or YouTube or anything that you listen to that you want to share that's been really good for your spirit?
Yeah, can I make a confession here on this?
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So all growing up in the Air Force, I've been told leaders read. And I just never made the time to do it. I would rather sit with you and talk for 30 minutes and learn through that than reading a book. That livens me up. Books put me to sleep. So, but I say that because there's a couple things that you can still do if you are like me and don't want to make the time to read. I have now. Okay. I've started. It's like my new passion. Okay. But there is a Netflix special by Brene Brown called The Courage to Lead. Courage to Lead. I think it's called Courage to Lead. It is phenomenal. It just listen to her, hear what she's saying. The vulnerability aspect and being at work and with your people, like that is something that I highly recommend everybody to watch. I also like to listen to books, and I want to scream this one from the rooftops, folks. It's called The Saint, the Surfer, and the CEO.
Okay.
It feels like every sentence this guy is dropping truth bombs, and I'm like, this book was written for Mary. I seriously cannot recommend. He does kind of different voices. So if that bothers you, like, just read the book. So good.
Right.
And then an actual book. Oh, hey, I have it sitting right here. Chief Master Sergeant retired Todd Simmons. He is a friend. He is a mentor to so many. He just wrote a book, Why Not Me? And I have this. I started this book, and within the first chapter, I think I have like 3 things in common with him. I was like, this is so great. Like when you get to know somebody. Yep. So that's next to me. And so I would recommend that. And I think those are important. And then also, if you like to read for fun. Like my daughter, she is an avid reader. I was never like that as a kid. So I'm like, yeah. I was told.
A different part of the people. But that's awesome because, and that's what's making me expand on this question is because what I'm coming to find is everybody has different, like, I don't know, the way they receive content, the way they learn things and receive messages. And, Netflix is just as good because, most of us love Netflix. So we'll definitely take that recommendation. And then, of course, Todd Simmons, shout out to him because I seen the book and he's been on our page and I've been hearing a lot of good reviews with that book. So please go out and get that. And then the other books that you mentioned, I will definitely put in the post once we're done with this interview. But yeah, no judgment. If you don't like to read, that's okay. That's okay. That's why they got all these different vehicles of listening and watching it on TV because we know that we have different ways of learning. So no judgment here. Okay. So let's talk about self-care. I think we did a little bit of conversation with that, but do you believe in that? Do you practice that? And what exactly do you do for your routine?
Yeah, I do. Here's what I've grown to know about it. I don't want self-care to become a buzzword. Like, I really don't. I think that has the potential, just like anything else, when we're like, make sure you self-care, make sure you self-care. Like, we have to make sure we are leading this from the top. Like, I don't care. Your actions are so loud, I can barely hear what you're saying. So if we're going to preach it, it can't be like all throughout my career, my self-care has been working out, even though that didn't really fuel my soul. That was something I had to do for credibility because it was keeping me healthy, because I felt good, but it didn't like fuel me.
Right.
Right. So I would do the self-care things. I would take my leave. I would unplug. But here's what I've grown to know about productive self-care. It's got to be for you, and it's got to be intentional. Like, it can't be cookie cutter. That's what everyone else told me to do for self-care. It's got to be something that grounds you, centers you, makes you think or not think, makes you calmer, or whatever. And it's got to be, I do it every day now. Every day. It's not, I can't be good for you if I am not good for me. And that is what my post, I stand strong by that. And because I made that shift, I essentially healed through a lot of things, and I'm actually better than I was in some ways. And that's the piece. And I got to tell you, Drea, I didn't even know that I was operating at like 60-70% for years until I took a step back. Yeah. Like, because it doesn't happen overnight. You don't go from full throttle to sitting on the couch. It's a gradual thing that hits you. But what do I do for self-care? I think you asked me that. I'm gonna self-ID here because it's a little bit nerdy, but it's just worked for me. I started becoming a planner, and I say that because like there's like a whole community of these people, the planners. Yeah, check them out on YouTube. There's a whole community of my people too, the card makers. But anyway, so what I've done with this planner and why it's been so helpful for me is not only do I get up early enough to take a minute with my day, with my schedule, I get a cup of coffee, I relax, and I start to look at what's ahead for the day. I want to make sure that I could be present. I want to be fueled. I want to be all those things, which is something I never did, by the way. I would show up to work and full throttle in. So that's helped. But I've also broken it out into sections. I have my schedule, I have wellness, and under my wellness part is where I annotate. Is this too much? Is this like more than you asked for? Is this okay?
No, it's okay. No.
Okay. All right. I'm just asking.
I asked you what your routine was. You're telling us what your routine is. Share.
Okay, good. So like, for example,
let us see.
This is my wellness. So it'll go through and it'll talk about like, what's my intention for the day? What did I eat? How did I move my body? And then like reflect on the day. And so I've started doing that, and it's like a journal of sorts. We just bought a house. So I have a home section here where I'm like putting designs of things I want to do in the house. That's sort of like my creative side. And then I have budget in there too, because you got to keep a budget. But then I have,
of course.
I have growth. And so under my growth area, it's laid out differently. So I sort of journal and write, reflections there. But I also add creativity to mine because that fits my temperament. And I put stickers in there that are like, you got this, kick butt, coffee, all that good stuff. But they're positive affirmations, and I didn't even know it. So that's something I do for self-care. I also became a physical wellness coach. And so I realized that the only way for me to stay consistent in my physical health and my nutrition and in my professional personal development is to hold myself accountable to other people. And
Okay.
so by being a wellness coach, a fitness wellness coach, that's helped me, like, because didn't I say it brings me joy to help someone else? And so
Yep. That's what I was saying.
we're in it together, and that I look forward to my workouts every day, which has never happened.
All right now. Yeah, that's no, that's like that's what we need. Like you said, you don't want self-care to become that new buzzword where it's like, hey, did you do self-care? Did you do self-care? Like do self-care and genuinely mean it. Like genuinely have a process in place. And for you, you fill your cup up by filling somebody else's cup up, right? But in the way that you want to do it. And then there is a planning crew, ladies and gentlemen. I did not know that. So and so,
Oh,
you know, yeah, it's a whole crew. It's sort of like, having a knitting club and a chess club. So there is a planning club, and I need to be a part of that because I am terrible at that and I procrastinate. So you know what? So I'm glad that there's something for everyone. So thank you for sharing that piece of it. So let's talk about, let me see. Do you have any, you talked about mentors, so I feel like the answer to your question is yes. But
Mhm.
let's talk about mentors and people that inspire you. Like who's in your life now, or who has been in your life that really has really helped you, as a person.
Um, well, I think growing up, so I'm the youngest of 8 children, and my second oldest sister she's 14 years older than me, so she pretty much raised me in so many ways. And she was my fourth grade teacher. She was, so she's been a staple of consistency and encouragement my entire life. Like, every step of my life, she has encouraged me. So I just owe so much to her. Um, there's a lot of mentors that I consider mentors in the Air Force. So I'm not going to name them all, but I will name one because she's pivotal.
Right.
Chief Master Sergeant Sarah Sparks. She
Okay.
is the Air Force Academy Commandant. Excuse me, Air Force Academy Command Chief.
Okay.
She was my commandant when I when I knew her. It's very rare that you can pinpoint one person. Maybe it's not, but it might be, to pinpoint one person that was standing at the fork in the road with you and
Mm.
guided you exactly where you always wanted to go. And that was her for me. And so she just is an amazing human and incredible leader. And I love her dearly, and I owe so much to her. So that's my main mentor turned bestie.
All right now, hey, shout out to Steve Sparks, okay, and also mentors and whatever. We just, I know that that's something that's a continuous conversation in progress. To where, I think with the social media platform, virtual aspect, it's better opportunities, more opportunities for people to reach out and get these things. Not to mention become mentors themselves. So, I was just curious who in your life inspired you. Okay, so last point. So normally I ask my guests if they want to give any advice or give any positive reinforcement to our membership. We have 39.7.8 thousand people in this room or in this group, whether they post or not. We know that they are there. And so, what do you have? Do you have for them? Just about anything, anything that you feel is relevant.
Yes. I would like to first of all thank Air Force Airman Outreach, Wingman Outreach. I tell you, I know the important work that you do, and I know that when you sometimes are seeing it, are you still there?
I'm here. I'm here. Don't worry. I moved the layout so people can
Okay.
see
Okay. Got it. um, I think I just want, I really thank you for all the work, and it's not easy. The subject matter is not easy, but it's important and it's so relevant and it's so needed. So thank you for this platform. It's huge. What I would say is this, we have an opportunity, all of us have an opportunity to be the leaders of our own life. Um, that anybody can start that. If you're in a situation where you're not feeling your best, it's okay. It's for a reason. There's something to be learned, even though you don't want to hear me say that. Start with just baby steps of what I did. And that was realizing that I just needed to say something positive every day. That was it. Write something positive, read something positive. That's it. I took a step back from things that were kind of weighing me down. Put you first. Put you first. You are the most important thing to this world. Those are facts. So please, that's important. And then that's for everybody. One thing I want to say to everybody that's served or is serving is sometimes the construction seems slow, but please know that you have done your part to pave the way behind you. Even if it's you meant to do 50 miles and you can only squeeze out 5, you paved something behind you by living with integrity, by leading, by working, by just serving your country. And I think that we all need to acknowledge that, because sometimes we're like, well, did I do anything? Yes, you did. We are vastly different today than we were 30 years ago. And that's because of all the work that we've been doing. So stay open-minded, stay progressive to change, and willing to change. And we're going to be unstoppable. So I just want to make sure I encourage that. And then lastly, a very happy Memorial weekend to everybody, and to take some time to reflect on what that holiday means. But that's all I have. And thank you for allowing me this time with you.
All right now. I definitely think those comments were awesome. And for me in particular, it's just this is the this is a weekend, but is it what is it's a time to reflect, it's a time for just just chilling. Don't no added pressure to ourselves, commit to anything, to just do whatever makes us feel genuinely good. I would say AFWO family, focus on that. Focus on if you need the space, if you're not like, you train and socializing tends to drain you, then don't be social. Like, that's okay to do. You can take the time to reset and get back to yourself, but don't feel like you need to exhaust yourself trying to find things to do in order to feel accomplished. Sometimes just chilling on the couch is just as good and just as relaxing. Because I know it's just always the question of what are you doing this weekend? That comes up, and then you always feel that pressure, like, well, I'm not really doing anything, and then the conversation dies off. Okay, got it. However, for me, I'm like, look, I'm, fine. If you just chilling, then by all means, get all the rest that you need, because you know that the next week you're gonna need all that energy to be at your best, the best you that you can be for that. All right.
Yes.
With that being said, go ahead. What you got?
I have my hand up. If I had the authority to give everyone that watches this an assignment, it would be this. Take the time, 15 minutes tonight, and write down how you envision your life moving forward. And don't let anything get in your way, such as money, job, people. Write down how you envision your life at its best, and then read it to yourself every day for a week. That's all. I just want you to do that, please. It's changed my life.
Hey, listen, and we got some comments on this live that I just want to read to you before we sign off.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
just give me a second, trying to work this Facebook machine. Okay, so yeah, we got Jennifer Jones that's saying, "Hey, Mary Polanco," and then thank you for being vulnerable and sharing. And then we have another person, Elvin Muniz. Thanks for sharing your story and encouraging all of us. All right, now it's already having the effects of trickling down. Mary is speechless because her heart is full, because she likes the good energy from y'all. So please keep that coming. With that being said, I want to thank Mary for being on with me today. This has given me as much good energy talking to you and hopefully for other people, for sure. And I want to thank you for taking the chance to be vulnerable with us. Um, just the courage it takes to to exist and to admit when you need to take care of yourself first. So we are proud of you, ma'am. And lastly, to the membership, Air Force Wingman Outreach at gmail.com is how you can reach us. It's the weekend, it's a 4 day. I know that some of you are out there in your own space alone, feeling like you are by yourself, but you are not by yourself. I promise you that. Please reach out to us, okay? But in the meantime, everybody have a safe weekend. It's Memorial Day. Make sure you pay your respects, take some reflection, and appreciate those that may have sacrificed in order for us to be able to do the things that we do. And with that, we are signing